Warning, the following video contains spoilers. If you don't want this episode spoiled for you, switch the video off now. Oh, this week's episode of My Hero Academia. Oh, it's giving me flashbacks to my old job. Oh, so many naughty children. No, put that spatula down. No, wait, stop. I just cleaned that cabinet. Jamie, no, stop pooping on the floor, Jamie. Stop pooping on the floor. Okay, so before we actually get too far into the review itself, I just want to ask you the question, dear listener, what do you think about this week's episode of My Hero Academia? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below, and be sure to like, favourite, and subscribe, and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do, because YouTube is an increasingly scary place for small content creators. Support your local small content creator today. It does them a power of good. As for this week's episode itself, I have to say that I did thoroughly enjoy it. It was a wonderful little tonic in a period of where tonics are very needed. I don't really know what's going that analogy, but whatever. This was a fun, sparky little episode which feels as though it is part of a story arc and possibly part of two story arcs that are coming up, which act more as a palate cleanser than anything that many of the fans may be used to, especially going off certain chatter and comments that I've seen around this week's episode. I worry that this arc and the next arc may be seen as being just filler, though in my opinion, I don't feel as that's a fair assessment. First of all, I'm not a fan of the term filler to begin with. I feel that it's a term that really needs to drop out of fashion as terms of criticism and literary discourse around television programmes and the like. It just doesn't really feel like a good enough term for what's going on. In my humble opinion, I feel that if something develops characters and the relationships with one another, then it's not filler. If it's our hero standing in a film field screaming whilst quote-unquote charging up for 40 minutes, then that is filler. I feel that this episode isn't filler because it does develop the characters themselves and does allow us to see characters that we've not seen now for several weeks and get a little bit more of an understanding as to where they are in their life, which is something I've been desperately wanting for quite some time now. This is a fun, goofy, silly little episode, which after all the grim darkness and all the horrible stuff we've had with Overhaul, I'll quite happily take, even if this whole story arc itself is just one extended gag, feeling very reminiscent of that whole how many 5-year-olds could you take down in a fight meme from about 10 or 15 years ago. I'm perfectly fine with stuff like this. Not the beating of children stuff, but the whole point of having episodes and story arcs which are designed to just let us relax and get to know our characters a little bit more. And it does, to be fair, have some degree of world building here. It gives us an insight as to how schooling and by extension parenting may feel to adults in this world. It's one of those aspects in life in this universe which is very similar to ours, but is made all the harder and a lot more crummier by the existence of quirks. If you've ever worked in tourism or hospitality, you know full well what little brats kids can be at times. Now imagine those bratty little kids with quirks. Yeah, you're welcome. I do have to say that I did enjoy getting a little bit of time to understand and explore Endeavour and where he is in his life. How he's dealing with the fact that he is the new #1 hero and the public's reaction to him being less than enthusiastic. It's interesting, it adds some necessary depth to his character. Though I feel that everything said and done, I don't feel as though he's a character that can be fully redeemed to me. I'd much rather than have a redemption arc, have an arc where we learn a little bit more about him. Why he felt he needed to do the things he's done and what really became of his other children beyond the potential dark fate of one of them. Redemption arcs themselves are very hard to get right, and with a show like this, I really don't think that him thumping some villain really hard in the face is really going to redeem him in his eyes, because he's done too many horrible things in his time. Though, given the fact I know that a redemption arc is coming at some point in the future, it's just a matter of bracing ourselves and just waiting to see what happens. Hopefully, it's something that's done with just as much character development as it is with villain face punching, but we'll soon say about that. Honestly, with all things considered, I'm a little bit more concerned as to what's going to be happening next week as regards the preview is concerned, more so than the events of this episode itself. Though we'll get onto that in the overview, which is coming now! Okay, so now the overview. What did I think about the episode as a whole? And as a whole, it was a fine, enjoyable little episode. Not world-changing, not a revolution, but it did everything that it needed to do as far as being a fun, exciting little episode is itself concerned. I don't think all the jokes fully landed for me, I have to say, though that's because I'm watching it as a subtitled effort rather than something is dubbed, and so the time is going to be a little bit off for me as far as that's concerned. That's not a slight on the show, that's just because I'm dyslexic, and as such, reading stuff that quickly can be a bit of a pain in the arse for me, particularly when this is a show that has just as many visual gags as it has actually written gags, so my brain's just trying to do two things at once, and it just cannot cope with that. However, if I am to be critical of this episode, though, I do have to feel that it's an episode much like the most recent episode of Doctor Who, where it's pretty much all set up more than it is anything else, though not quite as egregious as what happened with the most recent episode of Doctor Who. This is an episode which is pretty much setting up the stage for what's going to happen in next week's episode. And this feels itself less like an arc and just more of a two-parter. A fun two-parter, sure, but still, it's just set up. Though I feel that itself is more indicative as just how this show has been adapted, and once again highlights the limits having a 20-minute episode length. All this episode is build-up, building up to stuff we're going to see next week, building up to the wacky action sequence we're going to see next week. Of course, looking at the actual preview itself, it's not going to be all that. We're going to see a little bit of something else. And in the preview, of course, for those who've seen it, something's going to happen with Aoyama. He's up to no good, I think. I mean, what exactly are they hinting at here? Are they hinting that he may be the mole, the person that's been feeding information to the League of Villains here? Or are they just saying that he's a colossal pervert or a weirdo or something? I really don't understand. Maybe he just wants some of that sweet, sweet Midoriya arse. We just don't know. Oh, good grief. I think that's a fine point to end the episode on. But what do you think, dear listener? What did you think about this week's episode of My Hero Academia? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comment section down below and I'll get back to you shortly. And be sure to like, favourite, subscribe and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Click the bell and all that stuff. YouTube wants you to do it, and it helps me, a small content creator, support your small local content creator today. It does them a power of good. Anyway, that's enough from me. I feel a cough coming on, so I'll end the episode and say thank you for watching, see you next time, and goodbye.